Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and since it's Women's History Month, I'm here today to talk to you about Legend of the Seeker Season 2, Episode 3, I think, Broken. This is a very important episode in the arc of Kara. Kara was a character introduced in the last episode of season 1, and then she reappeared in the first episode of season 2, and she is a former Mord Sith. Well, she's still a Mord Sith, she just don't work for Dark and Raw no more. She now works for the Seeker because Richard is a Raw. It turns out that him and Dark and Raw are brothers and stuff. So she is the only Mord Sith who will serve that of Richard, because the other ones hate him and want to kill him. And so because of that, the rest of her sisters have disowned her, chopped her long ponytail off and kicked her out and left her for dead and everything. And so because of this, Kaylin and Zed, they aren't too happy with having a Mord Sith to hang out with all the time. And it's getting to the point where they sleep with daggers near their side because they can't use magic on her. Well, Zed can't, because she'll just deflect it on him and kill him. So during this time, Bailings are a thing, and what's that dude's name with the rune on him? I forget his name. And so I already talked about in that episode, Touch. That dude who has the rune on his hand, he's in this. And so like they've been traveling with him, and he doesn't like traveling with them at all. And so he's like a thief and everything. But this episode is very important because it sheds that of some emotion on that of Kara. Kara is a very stern, very strong, very proud person, and a very dangerous and evil person. And she is slowly starting to transition into that of a good person and a hero. Think of her as like 7 of 9. They're both blonde, they're both hot, and they both used to be evil. And they're slowly starting to turn good. That's the best way I can think of it, 7 of 9 from Voyager and stuff. And so the thing about Kara is that since she was like 8 or 9, she's been evil. Mord Sith aren't born, they are trained. They are trained in a very grueling, torturous kind of way that breaks their entire will to where they're so scared they just do whatever their master wants them. Then they become young killing machines. In order to prove that they are Mord Sith, they have to kill their father and everything at a young age. And so because of this, there is no room for like emotions. The only emotions they have is just bad ones and everything. And they lust and use their sexuality and stuff. And the thing is, people hate Mord Sith to death. So everywhere Richard and his gang goes, they are fearful now because there's a Mord Sith with him. And she still wears her Mord Sith outfit. She will not change it up. It's that leather on leather look. It's red leather catsuit with a leather corset that's very tight. And so like this episode, like I said before, it was written beautifully, it was acted beautifully, it was directed beautifully and everything, because it gave us insight into who Kara was before she turned into a Mord Sith. We got to see her be tortured, we got to see her be ripped from her family and stuff. And we get to see her make that difficult decision to turn against her father. And not only do we get to see the transition with Kara, but with Kaylin as well. Kaylin is very pissed at Kara in this episode. We get to see a very different Kaylin, one that is extremely vengeful. And Richard is stuck in the middle of trying to keep the peace. which causes even more conflict with that of Kaylin. And so, because no matter what, Mort, Sif, and Mother and Confessors, they hate each other no matter what. But now Kaylin has another reason to hate her. And the thing is, this season deals a lot with Kara this season. It's because she is the new character and we have to get used to it. And it is a journey she goes through from the beginning of this episode all the way to the last. And that's why she's one of the best breakout characters I've ever seen. And so with this episode, it starts out very unusual. There's a little girl. She's blind. She's wearing tribal clothes. There is a crow that she sends and everything. And we don't know who this little girl is. Then we see Kaylin. She's wearing her white confessor dress and she's in the field on a brick road type thing, and there's tons of white roses. And the CGI on that is pretty bad, but it was 2010. It looks like it came right out of a video game. And so when the birds flying and everything, it's raining, and every time a clear water drop will hit a rose, blood will come from that drop. And it starts to fill all the roses with blood, and then they turn black and they die. Kaylin is very confused by this. The imagery is amazing. I love that. The white roses, the raindrop, the blood drop, and then they all die. And then the little girl tells Kaylin, "You will be the last of your kind." So Kaylin wakes up thinking she had a nightmare. This alerts everybody else. And so they want to know what she dreamed about. And so when she tells them, Zed is all like, "That's not a dream. That's a dream catcher." And basically they send dreams to people, a warning sign on the wings of a bird. And so if, what she dreamed is true, she's going to be last of her kind. So she wants to go to Valeria to go find her sister and the rest of the confessors. Kara is like, it's pointless to go there because one, it's thousands of miles there. And not only that, but there are no more confessors on that island. And that's because when Dark and Raw found out that there was a male confessor there, he sent Kara and the rest of the Mort Sif over there. You can probably guess what happened. They murdered all the confessors, and the mother, sacrificed her son. So when Kaylin wants to know what happened to her sister, Kara tells her in a slightly sad kind of way that, she killed the mother and she did it quickly so she wouldn't feel no pain. Boy, this causes Kaylin to go into the Condor. I've talked all about this on season 1. Go find all those videos. And so basically it's her power that unleashed in a very, very powerful way. Instead of touching somebody to confess them, all she has to do is point her hand at them and they get confessed. Kara has no idea what's going on. Flint, that's his name, Flint. Flint has no idea what's going on. Richard and Zed, they do. And what's his name? Richard, he literally orders Kara to run, that she can't stay here no more because Kaylin is literally gonna murder her and everything. But she doesn't want to leave, but she has to because she has to follow the rule of any Raw and everything. So Kaylin is just screaming and hollering up into the sky as her eyes turn black. And so once she cools off, she tells Richard, this is when she goes to a completely different state of mind. She tells Richard, Kara's a Mort Sif. She's evil. She'll hurt people. I have to stop her. She's literally talking about she has to stop Kara. Now, Kara hasn't done a bad thing since she joined Richard and them. Yeah, she gets grumpy and she states her mind in a very blunt way, but that's about it. And so Kaylin is literally just wants to murder this girl up and down. And so Richard's all like, you can't do that. She's a good person and blah, blah, blah. This causes conflict between those two because she wants to know why Richard is always defending Carr. And he's all like, he believes everybody can change. That is the type of person Richard is. He's so optimistic and everything. Oh, by the way, his hair is growing out now, and he's grown a beard this season. But there's some bad news. Flynn has fled, but Zed has put a tracer on him. He spilled his shoes, so all they have to do is find it. So as they're traveling to find him, they realize something. He has taken off his clothes and shoes, and he leaves them a funny little note talking about, I know you didn't use magic on me because of the room, and you didn't want to risk that, but most likely you spilled my clothes, so now he's running around butt naked. To finish this story out, basically, Zed goes looking for him. Flynn actually stole some really fancy clothes and he's looking to pickpocket from people until he meets a guy. And the guy's all like, man, you can make so much money off that room off your hand. Basically, the guy drugs him to where he can't move. The guy goes into the woods and turns out to be Zed in disguise. He used the magic mirror to look like somebody else. We haven't seen the magic mirror since season 1. So Zed pretends like he gets rid of the guy and tells Flynn and everything, but he's gonna have to wait till that, that poison stuff runs out your system and everything. Basically, Flynn does not like Kaylin and Zed and Rich and all them. He thinks they're like a circus freaks and everything. And so Zed's not a little too happy about that. So that's basically all they do and stuff. So you're probably wondering, why isn't Kaylin and Richard with Zed and everything? They're looking for Carr. Why? Well, when Carr got banished and everything, she had no place to go. So she ends up in a tavern. And she meets some dude, she bangs him, but the townspeople don't want her there. So they fight her and everything. But she ends up whooping their behind. And so, since she can't stay in the tavern because they don't want her to stay there, she decides she's gonna go home, of all places. A place she hasn't been since she was 9 years old. So her sister is still living in the family home. Now her husband and daughter lives there. And so she's overwhelmed to see her sister because she hasn't seen her in forever. Now the actress who plays her sister, even though she's older, she's shorter than Carr. And she actually voiced a villain in Power Rangers Mystic Force, and she was in Wendy Wu Homecoming Warrior. She was the female coach and everything. And so what is it? And so Kara, her sister Grace, her husband, does not want her there at all. He hates Mort Sith because 12 girls have been taken from their village and everything by the Mort Sith. And so, but her sister's all like, I don't care and everything. My sister's back and we're going to welcome her with open arms. And so, I love the way Kara is acting in this episode. She's given a dress by her sister. It's the first time she's worn a dress since she's been a little girl. And it just doesn't feel right on her, she says. And I love the way she acts throughout this episode when she's at their home. She's sitting very still, very awkward and everything when at the dinner table. She glances at the kids, she glances around the house without moving her head too much. It's very awkward because she has not been in a loving home since she was a kid. And not only that, but it's her home and stuff. She is literally a fish out of water. And so, which is a funny reference I just came up with because there's a reason for that. But she is literally just like a fish out of water. And I just love the way she acted like that. But in comes some guards. Basically, her brother-in-law ratted her out. And so they went looking for Kaylin because they want the mother confessor to confess that of Carr. Why? Because it turns out, see, if Kaylin confesses anybody else, they'll be her love slave. But if a confessor confesses a Mort Sith, then they feel all this guilt and dread in their soul And they just start like confessing and telling the truth, and then they die. They die from the hand of confession. That's why more Sith hate them so much. And so like what's his name? Richard had no idea about this, but Kaylin's all for it. She's all like, "It's the will of the people, Richard. I have to do what they want." It's gonna be agony and everything. And so Richard, he's there to, testify for that of Kara. Kara does not want nobody's sympathy. She does not want nobody testifying for her. She is like boasting about every bad thing she did because she just doesn't care. She knows she's around enemies and she'd rather be feared and hated and stuff. Now, earlier when her sister asked her, have you seen father? Where is he? The Morris Sif took him. And with a very stern look and an angry look, she's all like, it's best you don't know. And there's a reason for that. So Richard is trying to, persuade the jury and everything. Tell them all the good stuff that Kara did, from helping him save the world, helping them with the bailings and everything. But they're unswayed. So then he tells them, more Sith are created. They are trained to be who they are because they're not born that way. And he holds in the jail and tells them how, they're tortured with this thing for weeks and everything. And the pain is so like excruciating that you basically do what they want. So he touches somebody there to show them how like painful it is. And they still won't care. Now, what's interesting is that there's a woman who gave Kara some water when she was in the head restraint and everything. We didn't know who this lady is, but we'll find out soon. And so as Kara is, talking about like what happened to like her sister and this and that, and the jury and Richard's talking about, we see some nice flashbacks in this episode. We see Kara and her sister and the dad out by the river, and he catches a fish, and he asks Kara, what should we do with it? And she's all like, it's a little baby fish. And he's all like, oh, and he's like, okay, we need to give it time to grow up. So he puts it back. Kara, as a little girl, did not want to harm any kind of animal. She didn't want to kill an animal. She ate meat, but she didn't want to have to hunt for it and clean it and all this other stuff, because she was one of the type of people who would not step on a fly. The Morris Sith changed all that with her and made her into a monster. And that's literally what Richard is trying to tell them. That's that whole reference of fish out of water thing I was telling you about. And so like she keeps telling them, the more Sith made her stronger. And it's like, she tells them like they had her in a cell for like days and weeks, and it was cold and she was barefooted and she couldn't go to sleep because the rats would gnaw her hands and fingers, even when she'd be in a little ball and everything. So the Morris Sith told her, well, if you want these rats to stop, you're gonna have to kill them. So she took in the jail. It took her weeks to get over the pain of the jail, but then she finally killed those rats. And she smiled as she said it, because she's proud of what she did. She doesn't regret nothing. She regrets a little bit of killing Kaylin's sister. That's about it. And so like, they talk about like her father, and her sister's testifying now, talking about how her father loved you and all this. We find out something interesting. Kara is all like, our father was a coward and a weak man, and they want to know why she said that. And so she tells them straight up she murdered her father because he had to in order to fulfill her test. Why? Because the Morrises brought her dad to them, and she thought he was there to rescue them, but the Morrises was like, oh no, and everything. He's here, he sold you to us, and he's going to sell your sister to us as well. And so she asked her father, is this true? He would not say nothing. He looked like he was in agony and pain and would not even open his mouth. So then Kara realized, oh, he must have like did that. So she murdered him and everything. Her sister is heartbroken as a result of this. But then something interesting happened. There was a woman who testified for Kara, telling them that, what happened to her was a terrible thing and she was brainwashed and you shouldn't punish her. You should pity her and everything. And so Kaylin looks at this woman and wants to have like a recess. As she's talking to Richard, She's all like, she don't believe that lady who's pretending to be Kara's teacher. And Richard's kind of pissed. He's all like, somebody is finally saying something good about Kara, and you don't even want to hear it. But that's not it. See, Kaylin tells him, I can't read this lady. Like, see, Kaylin has the ability to tell if you're lying or telling the truth. She can do it just by looking at you because she's a confessor. But then she tells Richard there's only one type of person in the world that she is unable to read. All confessors are unable to read Mort Sith. So they know something's up with this teacher lady. And so they ask Kara straight up, who is this woman? And she's all like, she told you, she's my teacher and everything. And Richard's all like, I'm your Lord Raw and you can't lie to me. I'll order you to tell me the truth. So like, she says that's exactly who she was. She's not only a school teacher, but she was the Mort Sith teacher. Because see, he ordered her to tell the truth because he felt she was hiding something. And she was about to tell the truth until that lady interrupted her. And so basically this woman will kidnap young girls from like the school, 12 of them, and raise them to be Mort Sith. This outrages the people, and they say they had enough. They want both these women to be confessed. So Kaylin goes to that of the teacher lady first. And when she's confessed, of course, she's in agony and pain because she's feeling all the guilt of what she did. But she still doesn't want Kara to die because she really likes Kara and everything. She said that was her best student. So she screams out loud that, there's more she has to confess. And she told her that she lied about Kara's father. See, all these years, Kara believed her father sold her to the Mort Sith. But it turns out that's not true. For days and weeks, they tortured her father. And they're all like, look, we'll stop and let you leave. But all you have to do is lie to your daughter and say you sold her. But he refused to. So the Mort Sith lady burnt his throat with boiling hot water and shoved it down his throat. That's why he was unable to talk when Kara kept asking him questions. This is the first time, well, then the lady passes out and dies. As Kaylin's about to confess Kara's like, just do it. Because Kara doesn't want to live with herself no more after now what she has done. And this is the first time ever we ever see Kara cry since being a little 9-year-old girl. Because of that, Kaylin's all like, she just can't do it. She hates her, but she can't bring herself to kill Kara because she realizes, this isn't all Kara's fault. Kara was literally just following orders because she was brainwashed to be a Mort Sith. This pisses off the townspeople, and they try to kill both Kaylin, Kara, and Richard. So they have to fight these people off, and they do. And so after they fight them off, they leave and everything. But they leave Kara behind to stay with her sister. And so as Flynn and Zed meet up with Kaylin and Richard, Kaylin said, you know what? She hates the idea of Kara being with them, but she needs somebody to protect Richard. And the thing that struck her was that if she would have died up at that trial, that's it. No more confessors and everything. So she has agreed to be copacetic with Kara. And so as Kara's saying bye to her sister, she's back in her Mort Sith outfit, but she altered it. She took off the corset, and now she pulled down the zipper so it could be more flexible and everything. This is basically her shedding her monstrous side and becoming a bit more human and stuff. Also, in reality, it's a brand new leather outfit that's more stretchy and everything. And so, because it's hard to move in those leather outfits, they said. But even this one's still hard for her to move because she can barely throw a punch. And so as she's about to leave her sister's place, we see Kaylin and, all the rest, meet up with her. And Kaylin tells her, I don't like you, but you have to keep Richard safe. And so they both agree to do that. Now, their relationship will change throughout the rest of this series. And it's very unique and interesting from where they came from, because they went from being mortal enemies to literally best friends and sisters and stuff. And the end scene is we see another flashback of Kara, her sister, and father. Now you probably wonder where the mother is. Well, her sister told her straight up, when you got captured and everything, and then father left, it was just her and mother died from a broken heart. So, you know, Kara has really been through a lot. She lost her family, still has her sister, but can't really come and visit because the townspeople hate her and stuff. And it's really interesting. She's so much like 7 to 9 and Xena, man. Just all rolled into one. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.